The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Rob Deininger here with Jack Degraw, and we are talking Yankees baseball. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you tonight, Robert?
Not too bad. Watching the Yankee game. They come in tonight losing 4 series in a row after winning 7 in a row. And in the past 10 games, they're 3-7 and find themselves in 4th place in the American League East.
Well, unfortunately, they just haven't been able to hit. And, the pitching's been fairly solid for the most part, but, eventually you have to score some runs. And, the bottom of the order, 6 through 9, is just, the average are getting a little better, but it's really bad. They just can't score any runs.
No, and I'm looking at the run differential for the American League East, and Tampa Bay's plus 75, the Red Sox are plus 61, the Blue Jays are plus 36, and the Yankees are minus 3. So, this year, they're lucky to be 31-28, and it's been the pitching that's been carrying them.
Well, they had that one good stretch when they won all those series in a row. They were like 20-8. So you figure out without that nice stretch what their record would be. And I don't think we can forget the last 40 games of last season. Yeah. They were a couple of games under 500. So, this has been going on for close to 100 games. And, it makes you think, this team isn't really very good. I think they can compete for the second wild card, but they're not a good team right now.
No, and I know tonight, Stanton's not in the lineup again, and I'm wondering if they're just sitting him because he's been struggling since returning from the DL, or if his legs are bothering him again.
I don't know. They're off tomorrow, so maybe they're just going to give him a couple days off. And he didn't get any rehab games, so I don't know. With him, with all the injuries, you just don't know. Anytime something happens, you figure the worst.
Yeah, and the only guy in the lineup who's been any kind of consistent has been Aaron Judge. He's been healthy for the most part, and he's been their most consistent player so far this year at the plate.
Yeah, he's got the 14 home runs, but he's only got 31 RBIs. You can't knock in guys when there's nobody on base, but
true.
Yeah, I don't know, really what they can do right now. They got to keep throwing these guys out there, and hopefully, they'll play to the back of their baseball cards. But right now, you got too many guys struggling, and their situational hitting is bad, and it's been bad for 20 years. But this year it's like, the Bobby Cox era again.
Yeah. And Gleyber Torres, for his struggles last year and this year, his last 15 games, he's starting to come around at the plate a little bit. He's got his average up to about 270 in the last 15 games with a home run and 6 RBIs.
Yeah, he's really stepped it up. And, he's been knocking in some runs. So offensively, he's been doing the job. The defense is, is still a little shaky at times, but, at least he's picked it up offensively.
Yeah, and then Miguel Andujar in the last 7 games, he's got his average up to 280 in the last week with 3 home runs in the last 7 games. So if Andujar can start, hitting like he's capable of and hitting home runs when someone's actually on base, that would be helpful.
Well, getting back to Torres, one of the things he's been doing, he's been using the whole field now. He looks like he's not trying to hit everything, out of the ballpark. And Andujar, if he can come around, he's an excellent hitter, and he does the same thing. He uses the whole park too. So, you just don't have guys who are going to rely on home runs.
And Clint Frazier had a nice walk-off home run this past week against Tampa Bay. That was nice to see.
Yeah, he had a couple good games. It looks like he was ready to come around, but ever since then, he's went back into a funk, and
yeah,
he's been very disappointing so far. I mean, I think we expected big things from him, and as of yet, that hasn't happened.
Yeah, and today I got into a bit of an argument with someone online because I said, Torres, is a better second baseman than he is shortstop. And this kid, told me, no, he's a good shortstop. He's better than Didi was. And I took offense at him. I'm like, Didi was a really good shortstop. I mean, he had better range than Torres. He had a stronger arm than Torres. And this kid brought up advanced metrics and stats for fielding percentage. And I almost lost it because I'm like, they play a shift on every player nowadays, even if, whether it's a small shift or an extreme shift, they're right there. So when the ball's hit, they don't have to move that much. I mean, they do a good job of getting the players in the right position, but Torres going to his right in the hole is awful. He has no range. He can't backhand the ball. Where Didi, he had great range going to his right in the hole. And, I mean, I couldn't believe it. And Didi, the last 2 years, has been more productive at the plate than Torres. Torres, since moving to shortstop, is batting .257 with 6 home runs and 38 RBIs. And Didi, in that same time, is batting .264 with 14 home runs and 62 RBIs. So even though Torres has been coming around of late, the last 2 years he's struggled both at the plate and on the field.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Robert, Didi was an outstanding player, and I think the Yankees will, regret not re-signing him because he's a natural shortstop.
Yeah.
And I remember when Torres was in the minor leagues, they said he's going to bulk up. He's going to hit more home runs, and he's more of a second baseman. So I think, if Torres is at second, he could do a good job. Now, I mean, the best shortstop on the team is Tyler Wade.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things maybe they could do is put DJ at first, have Torres play second, and have Wade at short. I mean, Wade can give you some things. He can bunt. He can steal a base. He gives you some speed because – I mean, right now the Yankees don't have too much team speed.
No, not at all.
And Wade can catch the ball.
Yeah,
so.
Like I was saying, the Yankees they're averaging 0.2 stolen bases a game, which is their lowest since 1968. Or, I'm sorry, 1965.
Yeah, well, 65, they still had Maris and they had Mantle and Tommy Tresh, and they were coming off, the 5 World Series in a row. So they were still a power hitting team.
Yeah.
And, this team is supposed to be a power hitting team.
Yeah, and this kid
they
today,
can't do it. I mean, the situational hitting is hard.
Yeah. And this kid, though, I mean, the advanced metrics and fielding stats, I mean, drove me nuts. I mean, because Torres has 9 errors so far this year, which is third most in the major leagues among shortstops, and that's not even including how many times he's had, he's thrown the ball and pulled the first baseman off the bag. I mean, I was in an argument for almost a half an hour with this kid about him and Torres and Didi, who's the better shortstop. I mean, I hate this advanced analytic and metrics that these kids use today. They don't even watch the ball game. They just look at the spreadsheet and tell you who's good and who's not.
Well, I mean, the thing is, a player like Didi was so good and was so smooth and made everything look so effortlessly, effortless.
Yeah.
You underestimate how good he was.
Yeah, and that's like go on, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Robert, go ahead.
Derek Jeter, if you went by advanced metrics, he was one of the worst shortstops in baseball when he played. but anyone who watched the game knows that Derek Jeter was a good shortstop, a really good shortstop. You know, he had great range to his right going to the hole.
Well, you know, one of the things when you play with a team for a long time and you know the pitchers, I mean, say Jeter and Pettit's on the mound. Now he knows if Pettit how his you know, if his slider's working, if his fastball's working, so he'll take a step or two over.
Yeah.
You know, he'll play in the hole or he'll play more towards second base. So that's what experience gives you. You just watch a pitcher. And if you played with a pitcher for a while, you know, can they pull him? Are they going to go the opposite field more? Can they get around on it? And that's the thing. I mean, Jeter, they want to get this metric system, and this is a lot of bullshit, I think. Unless you watch the games consistently, which I don't do down here, so really, you know, I can't comment on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But when you watch the games all the time, you know how good these guys are.
Yeah, yeah. And that's like, and the kid was like, what, do you watch every pitch of every game? And I was like, no, I don't watch every pitch, but I watch almost every game. And I was like, and I remember the game Torres had 2 errors in 1 inning against the Tigers, and those 2 errors cost us the game. You know, and these younger kids, it just drives me crazy. They care more about fantasy baseball and, you know, what the advanced analytics and metrics say. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the thing. I mean, you know, now they play all these games, and you know, you don't watch the game, and they go by what the analytics say, and you know, they can be helpful, but a lot of times, you know, you don't have the gut to, you know, what your eyes tell you.
Yeah, it's like last year I got in an argument with someone who told me Aaron Hicks was a top 5 center fielder in Major League Baseball, and I lost it on that one too, because he's a good outfielder defensively, but he's a career .235 hitter. I mean, he gets on base because of walks, but that means jack shit in the postseason when you can't hit.
Yeah, I mean, the one year it looked like Hicks was coming along. You know, he had 24, 27 homers, almost 80 RBIs. It looked like he was going to build on that. But ever since then, I mean, these guys are getting hurt left or right. So, you know, right now, Hicks was a bad signing, you know. Yeah,
and Cashman, when he signed him or when he acquired him, he said Hicks is going to be a future superstar. And so Cashman's been in love with Hicks ever since he acquired him. And I remember Joe Girardi didn't play him right away, and Cashman got on Joe to put him in the lineup. But Joe didn't want to put him in right away. But for some reason, Cashman loved him.
Well, I'll tell you another one, Robert, is Brett Gardner.
Yeah.
I mean, I always liked Gardy as a player. I remember watching him down here with the Tampa Yankees in 2005, 2006, and he's been a good Yankee. But you listen to some of the fans talk about him, and you think he's going to have a monument out there with Ruth Gehrig and DiMaggio.
Yeah.
This thing should have been done a couple years ago. I mean, now it's good they have him, I guess. But, you know, the guy's a .258 career hitter.
Yeah, and he's batting 190 this year.
Yeah. And, I mean, you look at the stats when they had Jacoby Ellsbury, and Ellsbury actually had better stats the 3 years or comparable to what Brett Gardner was. And I mean, it drives me crazy. You know?
Yeah, and the one thing that Gardner was good at was working the count. But even this year, I mean, if you watch, he's not even working the count, and his on base percentage is .278. He's not even over 300. He's not getting walks. He's not working the count. You know, and he does a good job of tracking balls down in the outfield, but he's got a below average arm out there in center field.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Robert, he's been a 4th outfielder for a couple seasons. I mean, I think we agree he's been a good Yankee, a good player. But I mean, you know, the love affair they have with him, I just, you know, I can't understand it.
No, I agree with you. I mean, when I go on message boards on Facebook, they rave about him. I mean, he's been a good Yankee. He's a great leader, but I mean, he's not a great player. He's not even a really good player.
No, I mean he's a good player.
Yeah.
And that's all he's ever been. I mean, he's accomplished a lot in his career. He was a low draft pick. You know, he's got 1,300 hits, a World Series, Gold Glove. I mean, he's an all-star. He's accomplished a lot. But he has never been a great player, and he's never had a great season.
No. No. And, yes, yesterday, Talon actually had one of his best outings yesterday. And I think it was in the sixth inning. I think there was 2 runners on, and it looked like the ball was going to be a home run. And it turned out it went to the wall, and Miguel Andujar misplayed it and missed it, which led to a run and 2 runners getting into scoring position. Otherwise, Taylor had a good outing, but Andujar misplayed a ball pretty badly yesterday.
Well, I mean that's the thing. When you have guys out of position, you know, balls over their head or balls by the fence, they're going to have problems with. And, I mean, just like we were talking before, Robert, I mean, you've seen that. Now, if you were going by metrics, it would look like, oh, he didn't pitch that good of a game. But when you watch the game and you see, you know, the players don't make a play or somebody got a hit off a broken bat, that's something you can't tell unless you see it. Yeah,
because he pitched 5 scoreless innings, and then in the 6th, because of that miscue, it wound up leading to 3 runs. So I mean, he ended up pitching a 5 in the 3rd and gave up 3 earned runs. But really, he pitched much better than what the line indicated.
Yeah. So that's another thing. That's why you can't go on analytics and metrics all the time, because unless you watch it, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. And Chad Green had a bad outing his last outing. He gave up 4 runs, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the game, I believe, was tied going in the 8th inning, and he lit up a little bit. He's only had 2 bad outings this year, but,
yeah,
you know, when things are going bad, I mean, you know, the bullpen, the pitching can't be good all the time. Eventually, you have to score 5 or 6 runs once in a while. Yeah,
because, I mean, hitters are only batting 184 off of Chad Green. I mean, other than that last outing of his, he's been great out of the pen. I mean, so is that guy Lucas Luddage, I think his name is, the lefty, the one lefty.
Yeah, he's been around for a while, so him just being in the major leagues this year is a great story.
Yeah, and hopefully with Kluber out, Montgomery can pick up his game a little bit. Domingo Herman's been pitching well. Cole had, a bad outing his last outing, but he's going to be, Cole. And, Loiza's looked great out of the pen. I mean, their pitching's been great. I mean, you really can't knock any of the pitchers, really.
Well, you want to bring up because Severino pitched down here in Tampa today with the single A Tarpons.
Yeah, he topped out at 98.8 miles per hour. His fastball average was 96.8, and he threw 34 pitches. 11 of them were sliders. But the fact that he's throwing up in the high 90s is a good sign. And you figure they'll probably move him from low A to double A, then to triple A. They'll probably try to give him 6 to 8 starts, something like that down there.
Yeah, I'd imagine he needs at least 30 innings. So I don't know if they'll keep him down here in Tampa for maybe another start, or they'll just go to Hudson Valley, and then we'll go to Somerset, and then we'll go up to Scranton. I think, Robert, he might start once more down here in Clearwater, and then they might bring him up, but there's no need to rush him.
Yeah, because the one thing I was concerned about was what would his velocity be, and the fact that he's throwing in the upper 90s, that's a good sign so far.
And there was something too about Kluber. He went out to California to get a second opinion, and they say he can start throwing shortly. I mean, it's still going to be a couple months. Yeah, it's still going to be a couple months before they get him back. And I mean, there's really no sense to to rush him because he only pitched one inning last year, so even if they don't get him back till August, that's fine.
Yeah, I see they moved Kluber to the 60-day injured list Saturday, and that's all it says here. I think they did it to free up a roster spot. He still projects to return around late July. Yeah, okay. They did it to bring up Chris Gittens.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, and
you
Zach
want to bring
Britton's
up? Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead. Sorry.
Zach Britton's also working his way back up. He's pitched he pitched yesterday a scoreless inning, and he's looked good. So he's someone who could be up here soon.
Yeah, I mean he's a big addition. I mean Chapman's been outstanding all year, and Britton, Britton's an outstanding pitcher also. So but eventually you have to score some runs. Yeah,
and the big news was the Sports Illustrated article about pitchers doctoring baseballs, and the article is the inside story of how rampant pitch doctoring in Major League Baseball is pumping pitchers up and deflating offenses. And Major League Baseball is going to be cracking down this season. They gave a date, but I don't remember what it is, but they will be cracking down real soon.
Well, I mean, Robert, you watch some of these games. I mean, these pitches are dropping 2 feet.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's pitches that they just can't hit. I mean, in the article, the one Cubs outfielder says, it's not like we're swinging for the fences. He says, I'm not swinging for the fences. He goes, I just can't hit these pitches. I mean, and they throw all this stuff on it, and, they're going to keep doing it as long as they get away with it. So, if they don't crack down. Some of these pitches are flat out ridiculous. The movement on them, I mean, and the late break. I mean, you can't hit them. I mean, you just can't. I mean, and in this article, they said, pitchers are using everything from sunscreen to hair gel to rosin and all kinds of stuff, even glue. And so the umpires have been instructed if a pitcher comes out with a hat that's dirty to start the game, they're automatically going to make him get a new hat, and they'll be checking for hair gel and stuff like that. So baseball will be cracking down, but apparently this is something that's been going on for the last few years. Well, one of the things, we've been complaining about so many home runs, so now we go to the other extreme. Yeah. So it's either one thing or the other. And, I mean, if they don't crack down on anything, they're going to keep doing it. I mean, just like you had the steroid era and all this stuff, I mean, if they let them do it, they're not going to stop. I mean, you had the Astros banging the garbage can, and so you don't do nothing, they're not going to stop. Yeah, and in the beginning of the article, there's a section where it says one ball made its way into a National League dugout where players took turns touching a palm to the sticky material, coating it, and lifting the baseball adhered to their hand in the air. And it also says a third one, also in the National League, was so sticky that when the opponent tried to pull the glue off, 3 inches of the seams came off with it. So they're using glue. So, I mean, holy cow. Well, I mean, the thing is, Robert, you think the manager went out and raised hell, but the thing is, his team is probably doing it too. Yeah. And there's a retired pitcher who said in the article, they don't mention his name, but he says he estimates 80 to 90% of pitchers are using it in some capacity. And that's a lot. Well, if it makes your ball move and, it keeps you around the big leagues, I mean, if it helps you make millions of dollars, you're going to keep doing it. Yeah, and the batting average for Major League Baseball this season is 236 right now, which is the lowest it's been in decades, I think. Yeah, I mean, nobody's really hitting. I mean, if you look across the board, a lot of good players, who've been consistent 300 hitters. I mean, you got a lot of guys hitting under 200.
Yeah.
And, if this generation wants to see home runs flying out left and right, hitting under 200, isn't going to do it.
Yeah, I'm reading a little bit of this article. I just can't get over some of the stuff that they're using. I mean, to use glue. I mean, my God, where do you hide the glue?
Well, you can't tell me the umpires haven't seen that. And it might be, they've been instructed not to see it.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking off air about the last time we saw someone that was blatantly obvious was Michael Pineda against the Red Sox, where he had the pine tar on his neck.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little too blatant, but it took a couple innings before they said anything.
Yeah. But they said they're going to crack down, and even the big name pitchers like Cole, Kershaw, DeGrom, they're going to, if they're cheating, they're going to get caught. They said they're going to crack down, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Well,
the thing is, they gave them a date.
Yeah.
So that's giving them a chance to tell them, okay, this is going to start. That's like the cops are going to raid the drug house, and they say, well, we'll be there in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also it says here in the article, Major League Baseball introduced a new baseball this year, one that was designed to increase offense but seems instead to be suppressing it. They say the new ball, which is about 1% lighter than the old one, is spinning faster, making it harder to hit, and flying less far once struck. So I guess they're using a new ball, too, this year that's lighter than the last year's ball. It's only 1%, but it's lighter.
Let me just tell you a quick story, Robert. It might not mean anything. About 7 or 8 years ago, I used to live down by the Yankees, and I used to always go out in the outfield to get the practice baseballs. They'd hit in batting practice. And, I mean, I would get 800, 1,000 throughout the season. So in the spring training the one year, they hardly were hitting any out. And the one sports writer, baseball writer for the UPI, who used to be a ball hawk at Wrigley Field, he goes, look at these minor league balls. They're not traveling as far. So, even back then, not that it meant anything because it was a minor league ball, but they were doctoring the baseballs because they weren't going anywhere. I mean, guys were hitting the ball hard in batting practice, and they weren't even reaching the warning track. So they can do something with the baseballs.
Jesus. Yeah, I think it was like maybe 5 years ago or something like that, where the first half of the season baseballs were flying out of the stadium, and fans started complaining, and then the second half of the season home runs drastically went down. I mean, I have a feeling Major League Baseball introduces new balls throughout the season,
Yeah, I mean, and they can use, in the summer months, the ball travels better and all that stuff. But, I mean, who knows? Who knows?
And here's something in this article. It says a lawsuit brought late last year by fired Angels clubhouse employee alleged that Yankees Garrett Cole, the Nationals Max Scherzer, and the Astros Justin Verlander were among the users of such substance. Apparently he was claiming they were using bullfrog spray-on sunscreen, which they'd spray on their arms and then use rosin bag and then wipe their arms, and it would help create an adhesive. The lawsuit was dismissed, but that's interesting.
Yeah, one of the things, Robert, now I don't remember it exactly, maybe you remember it, there was an Angel pitcher who died a few years ago, and they said, an Angel clubhouse attendant was giving some drugs or something he shouldn't have gave him. I mean, we can do more research and we can talk about it next week. But with something along that line, and I'm just wondering if this was the same guy who, made those allegations.
Yeah, because they don't have his name in here. That's just that he was a clubhouse employee for the Angels who was fired. But yeah, in this article, it mentions a lot of stuff that pitchers are using, from Tyrus, Sticky Grip, Firm Grip Spray, Pelican Grip Dip, all kinds of stuff they're saying that these pitchers use. I didn't know it was that, that bad to that extent. Wow.
Well, I'll tell you, Robert, if you've ever got some good pine tar and put it on a bat, you can't drop the bat afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anyone who's watched baseball for a long time can remember Billy Martin going apeshit with Brett, what's his name, George Brett, when he hit that home run with the pine tar on the bat.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that, I think earlier in the year they got nettles. And they noticed when they were in Kansas City, Brett's bat. And they didn't bring it up until, the next, when Brett hit the big home run off the juice, and then, they all went crazy. Brett went crazy, but they didn't do anything. He still got credit for the home run. So,
yeah, well, didn't they took the home run away and threw Brett out of the game, but then the next day they wind up picking it up from where he hit the home run, and it was kept right. Like they finished the game as if he hit the home run the next day, something like that.
Well, what happened is they made him play replay. I think the bottom of the eighth of the ninth inning, and the Royals, where they came to Yankee Stadium, and I think Billy Martin had Ron Guidry play center field, and
yeah.
he had and it was free attendance, and it was Billy thought it was a farce, and he just he had guys playing out of position, and I think the whole thing maybe lasted 18, 20 minutes, and nobody got a hit, or it didn't change the decision, but yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, hopefully I can find the date when they're going to start imposing, cracking down, and we could talk about it next week further. But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of pitchers try to take their chance and continue using it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, guys who are just hanging on in the major leagues, they'll find a way.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's like anything. If you're going to do something crooked or something, be good at it. Whatever you do in this world, be good at it. If you're getting caught, you're not good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, don't half-ass it.
That's it. And, I mean, it's been so blatant, and they haven't done anything. So, I mean, there's still guys who will do it, but just don't, be so blatant about it.
Yeah. And, getting back to the Yankees here, I wrote this down. Since May 28th, the Yankees have been outscored 45-22.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many games when they scored 2 runs or less. It's just ridiculous. I mean, Robert, even tonight they got 8 hits through 5 innings, and they've left 10 men on base.
Yeah,
it's awful.
Grounding into double plays. I think the Yankees have the most outs on the base path in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I think it's 27 or 28, something like that. And I noticed a lot. Another thing this year, they're hitting a lot of ground balls.
Yeah,
they're a home run hitting team. They're not even getting the ball in the air.
No. And after Boston tonight, they go on the road for 8 games. They play 3 at Minnesota, 2 at Philadelphia, and then 3 against Toronto. I think they're playing in Buffalo, right? Toronto?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, those teams, the Yankees, they got to try to get healthy offensively. I mean, Minnesota, for whatever reason, is one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball this year, but they do got talent on them. But the Yankees gotta beat up on the teams they should.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough there to stay. You stay over 500, you stay around 500, and then you have a good streak when you win 12 out of 16 or something. They're capable of doing that, but I think the days of, they're going to win 95 or 100 games, that's not going to happen this year.
No. And the Yankees are 14-13 on the road, and hopefully, they can, like I said, beat up on the teams on the road trip coming up. But they've been struggling on the road and at home really too. They're 17-15 at home, just 2 games over 500. So yeah, they gotta start winning some series again. Yeah,
I mean, if anything, I mean, Torres has picked up his hitting. Sanchez has picked up his hitting a little bit. He got a big 2-run double tonight.
Yeah.
Andujar seems to be able to hit. Hopefully Frazier can pick it up. I mean, they were counting on this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought Frazier was going to have at least a decent year, but he's really struggled this year. And Andujar, even though he had a bad play in the outfield yesterday, he has shown vast improvement in left field. And if he can start hitting, he might take at bats away from Clint Frazier.
Well, I mean, right now, Boone doesn't have too many options there in the outfield because nobody's doing anything.
No.
Like we talked the other night, I mean, they had a guy who could play all outfield, 3 outfield positions and hit left-handed and could steal bases and could bunt. And, he's with the Giants now, Talkman.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that, he would have been a nice guy to have right now, considering Hicks is done for the year, and you never know if Judge is going to get hurt. And I would rather have Talkman right now in center field over Brett Gardner if we still had him.
Yeah, I mean, another thing, Talkman's not a great player, but he can do a lot of things. He's a good baseball player.
Yeah.
And take a team like the Tampa Rays. They always say, why are these guys good? Because they got good baseball players. They don't have big star players, but they got guys who can catch the ball, and they advance runners, and they get clutch hits. They play good baseball. So
yeah, they're grinders. That's what Talkman always reminded me of, is someone who grinds. Yeah,
and that's what Gardy was. That's what he was really good at.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Clint Frazier. His stats, he's only batting 180 on the year. It seems like, he had that walk-off home run against Tampa, but that was only his only really highlight in the past week or two. And it just seems his batting average, he just can't seem to get it up to 200.
Yeah, and that's really surprising. I thought, I thought he'd be a lot of, a much better player. And a lot of the guys, the Yankees are counting on. They just haven't been very good. I mean, they've been below average.
Yeah, Frazier.
Yeah.
Frazier, he's got 50 strikeouts in 50 games, and that's something he didn't do. I mean, he wasn't someone who struck out a lot, This year he just seems to be striking out a lot more than I'm used to seeing him do.
Yeah, and well, hopefully they'll be able to turn it around.
And DJ LeMahieu, you used to seeing him bat 364, and this year he's averages 257. And I think it's like we were talking about this last week. I think the bottom of the order, they're not getting on base. So when he's coming up, he's coming up with no one on base, and I think he's putting a little extra pressure on himself.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about before, they hit the ball on the ground a lot. But LeMahieu seems to hit a lot of ground balls. He doesn't seem to be squaring it up like he normally does. Spraying the line drives to all field. So his game's been off this year too.
Yeah, I mean he does hit the ball hard, but it seems this season it's right at somebody. It's just one of those seasons for him, I think, right now.
Yeah, I mean, next week, Robert, we'll check the minor leaguers and see, if there's any, who's playing good down on the farm, see if there's any help down there.
Yeah. Have you heard any news on Clark Schmidt?
No, haven't heard.
Yeah.
Haven't heard anything. I mean, I assume he might be down here working out in Tampa, but I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, because I don't think he's even throwing yet.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully, they might need him later in the season because the guys you got on the roster now, with all the injuries, they'll be the team in, September.
And the Yankees, they're off tomorrow before heading to Minnesota, and you got Montgomery pitching the first game of that series, followed by Cole. And then on Thursday, they haven't announced the starter yet, but they'll be going up against their former pitcher, Happ, J.A. Happ.
Well, hopefully they can at least get 2 out of 3 up in Minnesota. I know Minnesota was expected to do some big things this year, and they've really struggled. So there's a lot of teams who are a lot worse off than the Yankees.
Yeah, Minnesota, they're 24-35 on the year, and at home they have a losing record. They're 12-17 at home. So the Yankees, if they can get a little bit healthy on this road trip coming up, it would be nice because I don't want to see them fall any further back because right now they're 6 games behind Tampa Bay, and 4.5 behind Boston, I think.
Yeah, well, Tampa Bay is playing out of their mind. I mean, I don't think. At least I hope they can't, keep that up. But they've been playing just like outstanding baseball. I mean, if the Yankees, you stay 5-6 games over 500, you'll be in the race most of the way or all the way.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay, they're 15-13 at home, but on the road, Tampa is 23-10. So Tampa has just been incredible on the road.
Yeah, I know they had. I think they might have swept Texas. So they've been playing outstanding.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if they're playing tonight.
Well, they won today.
Yeah, they won 7-1. Yeah, yeah. And the Yankees, like I said, after Minnesota, they play Philadelphia for 2 games, and Philadelphia, I think, is only a couple games. I think 4 games behind the Mets for first place. Yeah, Philly, even though they're 28-30, they're only 4 games behind New York. So I mean, Joe Girardi's done a pretty good job with Philadelphia, considering the roster. He doesn't have that great of a roster.
Well, I mean, they spent a lot of money, and I think they were hoping for playoff appearances at least, and a World Series appearance, and with all the money they gave Harper it just hasn't quite worked out so far.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Yankees got a deal with Stanton. I know they're only paying him $24 million a year, and the Marlins are picking up the rest. But I would have loved to see Bryce Harper in a Yankee uniform. He just reminds me of like a Paul O'Neill. He has that anger and that fire and passion in the dugout that we don't see any of the Yankee players have right now.
Well, I mean, they just seem to be a flat team. There's not a lot of not saying that they don't care. It's just like they they don't have a lot of passion. Of course, when you're not scoring any runs, it's hard to get too excited.
Yeah. And like I said, the Yankees in the last 10 games are 3-7, and we got to start playing better ball. Otherwise, by July we could have a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah, like Yogi said, it could get late early.
Yeah,
it could get late early.
Yeah. In Philadelphia, going back to Philadelphia, Didi, he's been out since May 12th, and I think Harper still out from being. I think he might still be out from getting hit that time. I'm not sure.
I think he just came back.
Okay.
He did play. Yeah, he did play today, but he just came back.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, Philly won today, 12-9, 12-6 over the Nationals. But yeah, I mean, the Yankees, they're a frustrating team to watch this year. But right now they're up 3-1 in the top of the sixth, and Vermont's pitched a good game so far.
Yeah, they just took him out. Hopefully, these games you got to win. I mean, you got to start winning some games, and you don't want to fall too far behind.
Nah, hopefully next week we have more positive things to talk about on the Yankees front, and maybe we'll know more about Severino and Britton when they might be up.
Yeah, and we'll do some research on the minor leagues, and maybe we'll talk a little about that.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about some of their top prospects in AA and AAA, and who might be making a move up from Low A. I know. I know the team in Low A's been playing really well. I mean, they scored 65 runs in 4 games, and I believe their record is like 20-7. So the Low A team is playing really well. And even I think Scranton and Somerset, the last time I looked, they were both 18-8. Oh wow! And Estevan Florio. I mean, could we see him up here again at some point? Do you think?
I think the way the current outfield is right now, there's a good possibility we'll see him because they got to get some production eventually, and I know the kid needs at bats, but they just might be forced to just bring him up and let's see what he can do. Yeah,
because I mean, a couple of years ago they were touting Florio as someone to keep an eye on, and also Jason Dominguez, that phenom that they signed when he was 16 or 17. I like to do a little research on how he's doing this season.
Well, right now, Robert, he's in extended spring training.
Okay.
And they play I think 6 games during a week, and the Phillies come over, and Toronto and Pittsburgh. He's supposed to come up to Low A Tampa the last week of this month. So we'll probably see him with the Tampa Tarpons in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I saw an article, too, about a power-hitting catcher in the Yankees minor league system. I forget his name, but, yeah, I think we have a lot of prospects that we could go over next week.
Yeah, I mean, even when Sanchez was, an all-star, they were still drafting the guys, in the low minors. And I think this one guy, Austin Wells, he's with Low A Tampa. He's been playing pretty well. And the shortstop from Morristown, number 1 pick, Volpe, he's been doing well with the Tampa Tarpons. So, there'll be a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Same time next week then, Jack? Sunday or Monday? Either day?
Yeah, we'll see how everything goes, Robert. Hopefully they'll win a few games and have more exciting things to talk about.
Yeah. All right, Jack. Until next week, we'll meet again.
Yep. Always a pleasure,
okay.
Robert. Take care.
And to all the Yankee fans, we'll talk to you later.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.